Hello, hello, hello. This is the Ageless Traveler, and this is a very special show about travel. It is about the biggest, most important demographic in travel today. Picture who that is in your mind. Oh, I think you got it wrong. It is women over the age of 70. We drive the industry, but they just don't know it. So we're going to take ourselves out from under the radar and give us a spotlight today because we have two women who have spotlighted the lives and the hopes, the dreams to reimagine aging, to tell us what it's really like when we're over 70. And you're going to like it. We have here Gail Zelitzky and Catherine Marienau, and they are the hosts of Women Over 70 Aging Reimagined. They have a wonderful Aging Reimagined circle, and they've brought us together. And I'm bringing them to you today so that we can talk about why they started this particular podcast, what it means to them personally, the most wonderful and most inspiring episodes. They've had an awful lot of them, but of course, their own life in travel. So Catherine and Gail, thank you so much for being with us. And I'm going to throw this out to you right now, Catherine. You're the youngest person on this podcast. So let me ask you, what does this show, your own show, Women Over 70 Aging Reimagined, mean to you personally?
Well, hi, thank you so much, Adrian. To me, I am 75 and
a mere baby in this crap, but go ahead.
The Women Over 70 is just, for me, is bringing together the interests and skills that I've developed over the last 50 some years working with adult women in college programs. So it is an opportunity to listen to their stories, these powerful, inspiring stories from women who are engaged in life and continuing to make a difference. And I love interviewing, I love listening and providing a platform for women's stories to be shared widely. And it is inspiring to me. I feel more alive and vibrant than I ever have in my life because of the women that we interview.
That's the secret and the surprise. People are always crying, I don't want to get older, it's because I'm older. I have never felt better. And as my mother would say, poo, poo, poo. But anything can happen. We're very realistic on this show and in our lives. But really, this is a terrific time in life. And you ought to realize that. Life is long and life is beautiful. Now, speaking of beautiful, here's Gail Zelitzky. So you are already 83 years old. I'm going to be 77. So I have to tell you that psychologically, with all of my love of longevity and all of my personal love of aging, I get a little scared. My mom used to say when she reached 80, she said, I'm going into the big numbers. That was her words for it. It's a little scary, even for the 70-year-olds to think about being 80, just like it is for the 40-year-olds to think about being 70. But it's terrific for you. So tell us about that.
Tell you about what it's like to be 80?
Yes, and to be a podcaster and to do something so breakthrough and continue to do it.
Well, I'm a 5-time entrepreneur. And so that doesn't scare me at all. Starting new businesses, looking at different ways of doing things, that's been me my whole entire life. And when Catherine and I started and got the idea for doing Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined, it came out of my interest in wanting to interview 70 women over 70. And Catherine had been my faculty mentor at DePaul University, where I got my master's degree at the age of 73.
Oh, terrific.
So we just jumped right into it. We'd both been interested in women's issues. We knew that the idea of reframing aging was important. And we were, I was interested in what was it like myself at that point, looking forward to see, well, what's it going to be like when I'm in my 80s and my 90s? But my mother lived till 92 years too, right? And so it was, she had a good life. She had a good life, and she was together until the end, even though her body had begun to fail her long before. And so I had a pretty good idea. And my grandmother at that time, She lived until into her 80s. And, that was old for her generation.
But
So,
my interest in aging is exactly the opposite. My mom lived till 92 and she had a terrible old age. She was also together, all of her, physically too. But after a certain age, she couldn't get a job. She had worked all her life. She was really without purpose. And I think one of the things that you bring to the table here is that the reimagination of being over 70 is that we have a purpose, that we're out there, we're loud and proud, and we're seen. So one of the things you do, and I'll go to Gail and then Catherine on this one, is you bring women together, not just on the podcast, but with the Aging Reimagined Circle. So tell us a little bit about that, Gail.
well, we give women, an opportunity to talk about all the issues that they can't normally talk about. They're in a safe environment. We bring in monthly speakers. Sometimes we just talk, and we find that the women who attend feel good about being able to share their experiences with like-minded women.
Catherine, you can add anything you want, but I have a separate question for you too, which is what has inspired you from your own podcast or from the Aging Reimagined Circle? Because again, you're 75. You must also think about what it's going to be like being 80 and 85. So we need this constantly being lit up.
We do. And I have friends like Gail, who's now in her early 80s. I have a dear friend who's 90, 91. I've been following that friend in her aging process for many years now. And we have done research around it. We write about it. We talk about it. And now that she's in her 90s, it's a different conversation because it's much more about how is she going to continue to find purpose and back while, as you said about your mother, Gail, her body's starting to fail in some ways, but her skills and her mental state is sharp as ever. So it just gives me hope that we need to deal with the realities of aging as it happens to us. And we also need to be able to look at what's on the other side of that. And I was reading something recently. The question was, what would you be willing to grow older for? And I love that question because I would be willing to grow older for I can continue to learn. I continue to have wonderful family and strong friendships and community ties. And to the extent that I can, I will continue to travel and explore. So there's a freedom here that comes from being older, that I really can set my own agenda and I can learn what I want and I can invest in what I want.
Beautifully said. Now we're going to take a little bit of a break, but I want to tell you that when we come back, we're going to be talking about travel. We're going to be talking about the inspirational episodes that these two terrific hosts of Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined have encountered. But now I'm going to do a little soapbox here. And that is, I say very frequently to women over 60, but it's even more so women over 70, the world doesn't expect anything of you. Make it sorry. Now, one of the things that we try to do here is help you make it sorry. And we do that by volunteering and giving you information about volunteering all over the world. And you'll hear a little bit about this in a moment. So don't you guys go anywhere. If you share our passion for volunteering or volunteering, AmeriCorps Seniors is the place to start. And please join our Facebook salon and become an Ageless Ambassador. To join the salon and discover more about the Ageless Ambassador program and AmeriCorps Seniors, simply go to agelesstraveler.com. You'll see the button that says Join our Facebook salon. Click it and you're there. And don't forget to visit the Ageless Traveler website for more information about volunteer programs. Consider checking out the resources that we have right here on the show notes, like Charity Navigator, Charity Watch, Give Generously, GuideStar, Volunteer Match, and of course AARP's Create the Good.
You can find all the details on the show notes. And if you have questions about this or anything related to travel or volunteering, don't forget to go to our fan page and record your questions. We might feature them on the show. See the show notes for the fan page link.
And now we're back. We're back here with two very fascinating women. You know, we do look statistically at who travels. And I will tell you that people over the age of 60 are going to take 1.6 trillion trips. That's a T, trillion trips by 2050. We are the largest, highest spending travel demographic in the world. Why over 60? We're talking to two women who are dealing with over 70. I'll tell you why. There are no statistics. The minute you hit 70, your statistics are gone. Nobody knows who we are, folks. We've got to tell them. But I do want to get back to Gail right now, because you do have the circle. You've got the Aging Reimagined Circle. You have a book coming up. We'll talk to Catherine about that in a moment. And of course, you've got the wonderful podcast. You'll see the URL on our show notes. It'll be very easy to find it. But you have been inspired over the years by your own podcast guests. If you could pick one that really is not letting the world say, hey, you got nothing to do. There's no reason, you're a waste of space, which I've heard that term for people over the age of 70 and 80. Who inspired you? Because you're so inspirational.
You're asking a really tough question, Adrienne, because all of the guests are so inspiring that we talk with. But there are a few that stand out. And one of them is a woman in her 70s. She's almost 80, maybe she's a little over 80, and has gotten a group together that dives into ponds on the East Coast to clear out garbage. Nobody else is going to do it, she says, so we do it. And they are called all over the state to clear out garbage. And they have a whole, group of women who come out for the call, and they have a whole system for doing that with boats and people who come and help them, So that's talk about purpose. This woman is saving the turtles and giving them clean spaces in order to breathe and grow and help our biological system, our biology system.
Fantastic. On a travel note, I just came back from Vanuatu, which is an island in the South Pacific. Unfortunately, they had an earthquake and there's a lot of issues there. And I'm encouraging, they're ready for tourism again. But I went right before, 2 days before, and I swam with the turtles. Mm-hmm. So you remind me of this. And on our website, we have, I don't swim, by the way. I walked with the turtles, but in water, up to my ankles. And we spoke. We had a wonderful dialogue, the turtles and myself. But the thing is that this coverage that I did all over the South Pacific was called Forget Your Bathing Suit. You don't even have to snorkel or swim, and you can have a fabulous time. So there are many, many ways to be realistic about who you are after the age of 70, right? I have many friends who are scuba divers and snorkelers, but they started early. It's not for me right now. That doesn't mean I can't live life to the fullest. So, Catherine, I'm going to ask you the same question about inspiration, and then tell us how that inspiration may have led you to begin to write your book. We'll talk about the book. But first, who was inspirational to you from your podcast?
Right. Well, again, there are many, many to choose from, but this is a woman named Gretchen who was my colleague at DePaul University. We worked together for many years, and we did consulting internationally and had a wonderful relationship. We both left our full-time faculty positions at the same time in 2019. I stayed here in Chicago. She, on the other hand, moved to Jamaica to live permanently, and in the mountains of Jamaica with the Maroons, who are an indigenous culture and a sovereign state. So they're Jamaica, the island, but they are not. They're Maroons. They're descendants from escaped slaves. And she has a partner there now. and they've built a home, and they've have a commercial bar on the top of the roof of the home, and they have guest houses. And it's just, she's the only white person who lives in that village. And I just find her courage and her enthusiasm for learning how to live in a culture so incredibly different from what she was used to. She's an academic. She does research. She writes books. She teaches. And now she's learning to live much more of a slower pace, more in touch with the land and the community. And the part that's been really inspiring for me is that she's also founded a foundation, Respecting Culture and Earth Foundation, which is to work with the local Maroon people for sustainability and to improve their economic development, and to harvest medicinal herbs that are growing on the mountain. And so she's got a 5-year plan, and it's exciting. I'm on the board now, and so it's another way to learn about, again, another culture and how to secure funding for them. So it's
a whole
to
package.
me, she's just the whole package. She's just an example of courage and commitment and creativity and contribution.
One thing leads to the other. I want to make this point about life purpose, which is a word that's thrown around all the time when you deal with gerontologists. They'll tell you, life purpose, that's what we need. It doesn't work that way. It works with finding something you love that you're really committed to, bringing it out into the world, and then the world takes you to places that you'd never believe, like this woman. I'm going to relate this to actually a travel thing that happened to me. I was asked to go over to Panama, and I wanted to live with the Kiva Indians, which are also an indigenous tribe, and because I work with the UN, the Peace Corps was there, teaching them sustainable farming. And I did live there, and it was 2 weeks. For me, personal agony because of the slow pace of their life. Not only am I from Brooklyn, I'm really from Brooklyn. So even the way they eat, even to go out and fish first for your food. And I changed. It was a really, really deep internal change. And it took 2 weeks, which is not that long a time. And like your guest, I was there. There was one man who was not, he actually married one of the women there. But it's a real culture. And I'm so proud because I was helping them. They're embroiderers. They have very famous embroidery. And I have 4 pillows. I'll put it on my website to show you the pillows on how to sell them, because that was my expertise. One thing led to another, and now every day of my life I work with someone at the United Nations. This morning I was already on with a partnership group with the UN that's going to have a program on February 4th. And I'll fly from California there. I would never expected that life would take that turn, but you got to get started somewhere. So Gail, I have to ask you again. You had so many people that were important to you, and inspiration. I'm going to go back to that in a moment. But Catherine, I know that this is leading to a book. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, well, we're very excited because we do have a contract with a publisher for a book that we tentatively have titled Aging Reimagined, Changing the Narrative About Women Growing Older. And it's so, of course, we will draw on the stories from our podcast guests. What's unique about this publisher is that they are primarily publishing works that will complement to be used in advanced college courses and will complement some of the more academic texts. So they want story. They want lived experiences that the students and the faculty can use in their curriculum. And they do want some theory in there too, which of course we can do. But we've looked at women and gender studies programs,
yes,
to see to what extent is aging and women aging represented. Almost nothing.
Absolutely not, right?
Yeah. So we think we're just excited about being able to reach another generations, younger people, presumably, and influence students who are going to be working in all sorts of different areas. We're in the gender and gender studies collection is where our book will be.
And of course, the beauty of all this is that it'll be the younger women who will also be studying, and they'll be the students, and they'll understand their long future. Yes, Gail, you want to comment on that?
This book has great purpose, and it's going to be far-reaching in that many schools will be involved. The book will be available through the university libraries. And we feel that the collection of women that we have is certainly going to be good study for inspiring lives and for reframing aging. Everything we do has to do with reframing aging, changing the conversation about how women age and what they do in their old age.
Yeah, I think there's something even deeper than that with what you do. Reframing aging is a phrase. I work with one of my committees is the NGO Committee on Aging, and the other one is the IFA, International Federation on Aging. And I represent that organization to the UN. So reframing aging is a word that's thrown around a lot. And what it really means is looking at aging as it really is today, instead of the way it was in 1900 when the average age was 47 years old, or even 10 years ago. Now, the average age being in an affluent country, anywhere from 77 to 79. Most people do even better than that. And in other countries, even young countries, even underserved countries, it's exponentially growing. Longevity is growing. Stanford University is mapping the 100-year life, on and on. So the word reframing is bringing us up to date. But you're doing something different. You're reimagining aging, which is what could it be that's even more than it is right now. Now, of course, I think we're up to having realized that women over 70 or 80 are not who they used to be. It's very different. It's much better, living longer, healthier, contributing. But where is that contribution? That's where the reimagining is, I think. And the women you already interviewed, they've already done the reimagining. And your book will, I think, inspire younger people to reimagine for themselves. And they've got lead time to do it. We're doing it on the spot.
Exactly.
We're like spinning on a pin here.
That's right.
With regard to that. So we're going to take a little bit of a break. And as promised, I will tell you a little bit about travel. But here is another soapbox. I've been speaking about the UN because I'm so involved with it at the moment. They change their statistics. There is something called the Data Statistics Division of the UN, and they change their statistics on tourism by including gender, right? By including diversity, and getting for the first time statistics on people of color who travel, or women who travel. However, not one word about aging. We don't have any statistics about people of any age, and none about women over the age of 40. Now, what happened? We fell off a cliff? What are we, chopped liver? I mean, I'm sick of this. All right, I'll be back in a minute.
What are you doing between March 29th and April 12th, 2025? Are you going on safari? Well, we are. Please come with us on our very first Ageless Traveler trip. I will make sure that you see everything that's on your bucket list. We're going with the very famous Colette Tours, one of the oldest tour operators in the United States. They know us, they respect us, and they provide for us everything that we need. Yes, we are going to Kenya. We will see the city of Nairobi. We're going to the Serengeti. We will see the Big Five. We will also have adventures of a lifetime. If you have been studying safari, or even if you have gone on many safaris, this is something really different. So how do you find out about it and get your special discounts because you're an ageless traveler? Very simple. Go to agelesstraveler.com. That's our website, agelesstraveler.com. Take a look at featured trips. Get the details by clicking right there. You can do everything from inquire, get your question answered, to book right away so that you're going with us. It is a terrific, terrific tour. And by the way, you can also go to the Masai Mara on an optional pre-trip tour. There's a lot more to it than that, because there's yet more opportunity if you have longed to trek with the gorillas in Uganda. Yep, we can make that happen too. So please take a look at agelesstraveler.com, featured travel, and go on safari with us.
And we are back. And guess what? Surprise, we're going to talk about travel on a travel show. Okay, we're going to start with Catherine. Now, look, travel to me is a life purpose, obviously. My life purpose is to have everybody have a kick-ass old age. And the way I'd like to do that is by facilitating their lifelong travel, because I think it means a lot about relationships, curiosity, and health. But where do you like to travel, Catherine?
You can pretty much name it. Something that I've always had just an incredible thirst for travel. And it used to be when I was younger, it didn't matter where. It was just to have the experience of going somewhere new. I've become more purposeful over the years. And some of the travel that really stands out for me, going to Peru and where we adopted our daughter, that was an incredibly special trip. I've been to Africa several times. I think that it's to the Eastern Africa. I think it's just every time I have been there, I've just felt like I don't know if I've been transformed, but I certainly have been affected. It's had an impact. And Jamaica, my friend is among the Maroons, and Galapagos Islands was very special, as was Morocco. And I've also traveled for work, so consulting in Ireland and Greece and Africa. And I'll tell you what stands out for me the most now is travel because of the relationship that I have with the person I'm traveling with or traveling to. And so it's almost like the place itself is secondary. And it is, how can I have this experience with another person I care about or group that I care about in a different environment?
Well, companionship is one of the things that we do tend to lose when we get older. That's one of the reasons to be realistic about it and to get yourself a framework of relationships. And we were very proud because the Ageless Traveler, shameless plug, was nominated in Europe for thwarting isolation. And the reason we were nominated for that was that we also have a Facebook group. We call it a salon, where people can get together and travel with each other because we lose our companions. And the reason we have a travel bros with men that I interview is because many men who are perfectly healthy and able to travel and are married, they don't want to travel anymore. And their wives still do. 63% of all women who travel solo are married. It's quite a statistic. That statistic we've got. So you're right. It is the companionship that becomes so much more important. And it lasts because of technology. We can really stay in touch even after the trip. So I'm going to ask you, Gail, the same question. Your favorite place to travel or places?
I have been the kind of person whose bags are always packed, Adrienne.
Yeah.
And I am happy to go anywhere. And I have taken some fabulous trips. And many of them were with my husband when we started in 1980 in London, Scotland, and Wales. That was a wonderful trip. We drove all around. We went to France on a gastronomic tour of our own. We traveled in a car by ourselves and went from small inn to small inn where they had 5-star ratings for food. That was a terrific trip. And I've been to a lot of European countries. I traveled for work when I taught throughout the States. Let's not forget how great the United States is and how many wonderful places are. You can go there. And the last trip that he and I took together before he passed away was to Spain. And we took just a fabulous tour of out of the way places and staying in inns that were not on the common trail. And so we saw a lot of Spain. When I go on a trip, my ideal time is 3 weeks. So even when I was working full time, well, I'm still working full time on this podcast. Yeah, but it was 3 weeks because that gives you time to really get to know a country. And I like to go to one country at a time so that I can have a real sense of what it's all about.
So a couple of comments. I pride myself. Bags are always packed. I never not want to go. In fact, I'm going to have on my tombstone. I'm serious. It always pays to go because I don't know what that new adventure is going to be. So the fact, though, is that I travel 3 to 4 months out of the year. And when I make my arrangements for that, I'm very careful about health. So there's a new kind of travel, which is health and medicinal travel. And I do take advantage of it. And I have doctors in Mexico and in Thailand. So you think about that. Why do I mention it? 2 reasons. One, a lot of people who have traveled a lot, like you, have burnout. They're done traveling. Now, we're not that. We don't have that spirit. But there's a lot of reasons to travel beyond just sightseeing today. Volunteering, medical health, relaxation, gaining companionship, learning, lifelong learning. There are so many purposes other than eating in Paris, which is not bad either. But the fact is that you can reimagine your travel at this age, and particularly when you can take longer trips. So that's one reason. The other reason is that the National Institute of Health did a study saying that we just stay more competent when we travel because we've got to at least pack our bag. People tell you can't do it, so you think you can't do it. And that's happened. They call it self-imposed helplessness.
Yeah.
Comes after the age of 80 more than 70, but because they tell you can't do it, so you don't do it. And we're finding that in the world of tourism, which will tell you, well, you can't take that cruise tour excursion. It's too hard for you. And then you go and you realize it was a cinch. Mm-hmm. But you could have stayed on the ship and done nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're finding here. Now, again, I'm fascinated by the fact that your book is not for the general public because there's so much out there about, rah-rah, like me, rah-rah, get out there and reimagine and new life, start a business after 60. All this stuff is out there for the consumer, the general public. And it becomes like pablum. It's the same thing over and over again. But you're getting to people much earlier in life, which is a huge responsibility. However, in dealing intergenerationally, Catherine, I find a resistance of younger people, and it may even be the human condition that we don't want to think about our own aging. So do you think that this book will be interesting to people out of the gerontology world and in different disciplines?
I think it will. I think it will in any of the social sciences, in some of the health areas outside of gerontology, certainly women's studies. I experience here some of that resistance among younger people also. I don't want to talk about aging and then maybe it won't happen.
Right. Me too. I don't want to talk about it. Maybe I won't get older. No.
Right. But I think that the more examples, the more role models that younger women, younger people see about older women in particular, the less it becomes less mysterious, becomes less scary. They see possibilities. My daughter's 34. She thinks I'm the hottest thing on earth and she talks about to her friends all the time, what I'm doing and where I'm traveling. And so she has some pride in how I am growing, continue to grow older. But we've had people say, I don't want to tell you my age. I don't want to, I'm not going there yet. But I think
we could be living in a bubble. we're self-selected. We talk about these great women. We meet these great women that are moving the world. We forget that it's not the norm yet. It's not the norm.
Yeah, it's not the norm. I mean, I got together with my relatives, and I see a different lifestyle, different way of being in the world. It's not exactly what we're talking about here.
Yes.
It
And
seems to
sometimes there's a resistance and even an anger. Like, oh, you think you're able to thwart aging. Well, wait. Well, I waited a long time and it's still working. So, but I will say you're right. Our kids are very prideful of us. I was sent a picture once in front of the capital of Tashkent in Uzbekistan. And my daughter published the picture on her social media saying, here's my mother in Tashkent. What is my life? Meaning, look what she's doing. And I'm waiting for the elevator. So, it is a wonderful thing. And you do mentor just by living when you do it the right way. But Gail, I'm going to ask you a tough question. I married 55 years, and most of the 121 countries I went to, which is a lot, was with my husband, like you. I have a fear, and I work with women all the time that become widowed. And they tell me, oh, they traveled so much, they don't want to take their first solo trip. Or they don't want to even take their first group trip. I can't think about how I might cope with this, that part. The aging, no, but that part, the widowing part, I can't. It's a tough one for me. How'd you do it? How did you take your trip after you've had such a long and great relationship of travel?
I have taken many trips since my husband passed away. And it started easily because of a dear friend who, she knew I loved travel, she loved travel, and we just made up our minds that we were going to go together. She was solo, I was solo. And I think that the love you have, especially Adrienne, the love you have for travel is not going to be thwarted by not having your husband to travel with, because that desire to travel, to learn, to see new cultures, to learn new things doesn't go away.
Yes.
Doesn't, you're an individual. So
Curiosity sustains you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So now I'm going to take a little break. We come back, and I'm going to ask the question that I used to ask all the time on my other podcast, which is Generation Bold, the fountain of truth about aging. And now, of course, we concentrate so much on travel. They don't get to ask this question. They don't know what the question is. They didn't prepare them. And I'm not telling you. Listen to this great message. It's very important because it's going to help you do something that both of them mentioned, and that is travel in the U.S. to the great national parks at the lowest possible cost. So don't you go anywhere.
Do you love national parks as I do? Well, if you're 62 years or older, you can buy a $20 yearly pass or an $80 lifetime pass online. The pass covers entrance and standard amenity, day uses, recreation fees for pass holders, and their companions to more than 2,000 recreation sites managed not just by the National Park Service, but by Fish and Wildlife Service, Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Reclamation, Forest Service, and the Army Corps of Engineers. At per vehicle areas, this one pass covers all passengers in a non-commercial vehicle. And where per person fees are charged, the pass covers up to 3 adult companions. Now, this is a bargain, and you'll find out all about it in our show notes and exactly where to go online to get your pass.
And now we're back, and we're sadly at our last segment of this show. Now we're here with Gail Zelitzky and Catherine Marienau. They are the eminent hosts of Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined. They have an Aging Reimagined circle. Of course, you're going to get all the URLs in the show notes so that you can join the circle. You can listen to the podcast. And eventually, we'll have them back on when their book is published. Although I will say that I'm thrilled that it's not one of those, okay, let's get a chatbot to write a book about aging and tell people that they need a life purpose. We know. All right. So So this book is really going to infiltrate, I call it infiltrating, academia so that younger people, students of all ages, will begin to start to think critically about what it really means to reimagine aging and what it is today and where we get it wrong and where we get it right. But here's my question, which relates to what I just said. So, Catherine, it's my famous magic wand question. If you had a magic wand and you have a 34-year-old daughter, and I have a 33-year-old daughter, so we're in that same pew, what would you want for her long future? We get a positive future where, because of strides in health and the way we take care of ourselves, we're mapping the 100-year life. So what would you wish for her? A continued career, different kind of life? What, you're waving a magic wand for your own daughter.
For my daughter, I would wish her, first of all, good health, and which she doesn't have right now. And I would imagine that as she grows older, she will become healthier physically and emotionally. She's a very creative person, so she probably would be running her own business. She's very much into health and beauty and that whole industry. She will eventually have her own business, and she will be mentoring other younger people. And she's very hospitable. So I can see her, even when she's sold her business and maybe she's in retirement, she will continue to find ways to connect with people and create meaningful and fun experiences with people. Her desire at this point is to be in a long-term relationship and have children. So I hope that is in her future as well.
Beautiful. Now let's get a little bit more global. If you could wave a magic wand and make a change in how today's women think about aging. Today's women think about their own aging, women in their 30s. How would you like them to change the way they think about aging as a general culture that we have here in the US?
Well, I would like them to be thinking about aging as a natural progression. It's a natural evolution of life. And so each phase brings its own challenges, certainly, and rewards and possibilities. And so there's always something to look forward to. There's always something to explore. And it doesn't necessarily have to be travel explore, but that curiosity, that openness to learning, to being more reflective, self-reflective, to continue to wonder about what's the meaning of my life and every other person's life, and how can we make it better for each other.
So the idea of continual exploration, internal, external, every way, and that it really does make a difference to your aging. So I also have for you, Gail, two magic wand questions. One is a personal one and one is a global one. On the personal one, I'm a mission officer. This is something that I'm very committed to, and that is I'm a chief mission officer of something called Business Authority 50 plus. People who are starting a business for the first time after the age of 50. And you've started things after the age of 80, because that's chump change for you after the age of 50. What would you say to them if you could wave a magic wand and say to somebody who's entering entrepreneurship, probably because they were retired and they can't stand it, and they want to do something autonomously, or they always, all their life, knew they were an entrepreneur but didn't have the opportunity, but everybody tells them they can't do it, they're too old. What would you say? How would you like them to change their attitude?
I think that I know that many people who start businesses at older ages are doing it because they have a passion and a deep-seated interest in some particular area. And so I say to them, talk to everybody you know, gather together some of your best thinkers from your years as working in other businesses, and brainstorm how you can take your ideas and put them out there in a way that is meaningful and useful for the public.
So, in other words, don't go it alone.
Don't go it alone in terms of how you think about it, because they don't know what it means to be an entrepreneur. So gather together entrepreneurs who've done it before. Think about, together come up with all these ideas. And if it's your idea, then just expand on it with other people who have been there, who can tell you about the pitfalls, who can help you see that this is not just easy to do.
Right.
And you can, it's business, regardless of what it is, it's business. It requires income, it requires outgo. And to that point, on something that I just have to say this for what you were asking about children.
Yes.
I have, and it hits me that the important thing they have to do is plan early. My kids are entrepreneurial like I am.
Yes.
And so, especially as an entrepreneur, you need to plan your retirement, your succession, your life, your finances early, so that it isn't a surprise when you get to be older that you want to travel. It costs money. You want to move somewhere. It costs money. You need to plan for those things.
Yes, I'm going to again ask you the magic wand more globally in a minute. But I do want to say, and this will be in the show notes, I have not on this travel show discussed money, except that we do have a free ebook called Luxury Travel for Less, which is interesting because it's hints and tips on actually how to go out to the world and save money and be able to afford it. My other life was in the world of personal finance, and all my other books are. And we can talk very glibly about life purpose. But if you can't eat, you don't have a life purpose. That's the secondary part of it. So there are two books out there. One is called Making Up for Lost Time, which I wrote for people, Gail, who did not plan early. I wanted to call it End Run, but it sounded like people were going to check out. But no, it's called Making Up for a Long Time. And the other one is How Not to Go Broke at 102. Which is if you did plan and now you're 70 and you got 30 years, maybe 35, they say now, 105. Wow. Yeah. You do not want to go broke, even if you did plan well during those 35, maybe 40 years of retirement. Mm-hmm. So those books were written very early, 2008 and even earlier. And now they're more relevant, to be honest with you. So money is a big thing, and certainly if you want to travel, it's a big thing.
Exactly.
So, now, with regard to the other magic wand that isn't so personal as business and children and so on, you did mention mentoring. In other words, you said if you're looking for a start a business, get some mentors. But let's make that more global. If you were mentoring a young person, and you probably do that with your kids, on a more life purpose level, so that they were not just prepared financially, but prepared psychologically to be 70, 80, and reimagine their own aging. What would you tell them as a mentor?
I think resilience is probably the most important attribute that anyone at any age can have, because things change on a dime, as we know. And so the more resilient you learn to be, the more you learn to be able to turn lemons into lemonade, the sooner you're going to be able to move with the changes that occur in your life. And mentoring, I've done mentoring most of my career, and it's very important. And today I'm involved in intergenerational mentoring, which I think is crucial. So it's a matter of resilience. It's a matter of looking ahead with eyes wide open, learning all you can learn, and making a plan for your life. Know what it is you want to, and be able to be resilient if it doesn't go quite the way you thought it would. Find a different way.
A new path. Yes. mention UN. It's on my mind because we're doing so much right now for aging. But the theme of the United Nations for this year is social resilience.
Mhm.
Social resilience. And so I've been doing a lot of research on older women and social resilience and their contribution to social resilience in a community.
Mhm.
And of course, there's two parts to it. One, because we earn less and live longer and sometimes have less money, even if we've earned because of our longevity. We don't have a lot of support. And in many, many countries, we are totally forgotten. So if we're not resilient, we need social resilience policies in governments. On the other hand, in every case where older women are resilient, are healthy, we bring more resilience to a community.
Mhm.
So that if you take a look at terrible crisis areas like the Ukraine or fires in California,
Mhm.
and you take a look at who's volunteering on a community basis, you got all the women over 60, 70, and 80 if they have the health and capacity to create greater social resilience. They're opening their homes.
Mhm.
And we opened our home in 9/11 in New York City.
Mhm.
Who's doing it? Take a look at women of a certain age. So that's really true. It's just statistically correct with regard to resilience. So I thank you so much, but I have to tell you a little joke, but it's true. My mom, who lived till 92, we made a party at 90.
Yes, so
We
did we.
asked her the same question I asked the two of you. What would you tell the new generation that they should really know? And she really thought about this. And she said, I tell them, don't forget to moisturize. So, so your daughter who's into beauty, she's got something there.
That's fun.
No doubt about that. And I love that. So, and I know I never forget to moisturize.
That's right.
So thank you so much. Now, tell us once again, it's going to be in the show notes, but Catherine, first, how do we find your podcast?
Womenover70.com. And 70 the number.
70 the number,
Mhm.
womenover70.com.
Yes. Mhm.
And how do we join? There is I was going to say resilience, the Aging Reimagined Circle. Gail, how do we join the circle?
You join by going to womenover70.com and looking for Aging Reimagined Circle at the top. Click on it, and it will give you information about the circle, why you should join, and the link you need in order to do so.
That's fantastic. And thank you on behalf of all of us that should not be forgotten because we got the money, honey, but are forgotten. I'm so glad you're reimagining and shining a light on what it's really like to be over 70. And for
Thank you.
the rest of you, you know what I'm going to say? Never stop traveling.